This book is called Unconscious Television. It is a book that is informed by this content with aspects of psychoanalysis, in both its clinical and theoretical dimensions, and the way Lacanian psychoanalysts deal with language. Also, this book aims at posing, because of psychoanalysis, philosophical problems, twisting concepts that will entangle art and the production of thought. What I have been concerned with is a certain relationship to the big other, that is, the symbolic, alienation in language, the master signifier, and how stuck we are with this neurotic comprehension of the clinical and the theoretical, and how we need psychotic or perverse possibilities in order to invent new things, new lives, new bodies and worlds, new concepts and thoughts.
Attention passengers, flight AB123 from Berlin is now landing in Lisbon. Please remain seated until the aircraft comes to a complete stop.
The reason we are in Lisbon this week at all is because we are releasing a book by Lucas called Unconscious Television.
Anyway, I had the dream, and the dream was like, did I tell you this dream when we met? Okay, and I thought it was so...
Testing. Is there any feedback on your microphone?
That was super interesting because... Bom, eu vou falar um pouco sobre o livro, né? Esse livro vem de uma questão com um trabalho clínico de psicanálise diante das imagens em movimento. Daí desse texto, eu fui pensar toda uma outra complexidade que seria pela animação japonesa. A Tsinti, a materiality, energy of the television that comes out of it. Instead of thinking how language would compose bodies, I was very interested in how bodies could compose effects in the symbolic and change language. Perspectivist crash, Evangelion, Asuka, Catexia, concept of the war machine and the symbolic. The war machine is what makes the striated space of the symbolic a smooth space again. So this smooth space is a space of potentialities, of new things to come. Multinaturalism, chaosophy, possibilities of bodies, crazy worlds, people being several stuff at the same time. The crypt that I'm trying to elaborate on the book with the compositions of anime, it is maybe the death image. It is something in between, in the circle of life, in between being a caterpillar and a bird that we cannot really hold, but we can talk about. So you have to go inside of the sea, grab whatever is possible when you go to the sea and come up with something else, with a new thought. There is a force in those images of anime that make these people that are dealing with anime want to become what they're seeing. When you think about cosplay, it's a resistance that is there. It's another possibility of production of life. What happens if these images are stronger than us and then we have to, in a way, become what they are? Finalmente tem um outro texto que é um texto sobre o David Lynch. Eu fiz um sonho, e é esse sonho, na quinta-feira da morte do David Lynch, o meu sonho fala: as mulheres morreram, as mães morreram, e a figura paterna vai aparecer e vai falar com você. E que é o David Lynch, e que vem se aproximando de mim, e eu não sei muito o que fazer, e aí eu prendo a respiração e pulo pela janela. O que não faz muito sentido. Por que você prende a respiração para pular pela janela? Assim, é uma questão ali de análise mesmo. Por que você prende a respiração para pular no ar? Não é o oceano. E aí eu pensei muito na importância do trabalho do David Lynch para esse livro, que é um livro que, sobretudo, quer pensar as tensões entre o conceito do Ferenczi de Thalassá, que seria esse oceano caótico de forças e potencialidades pré-humano, de uma relação entre espécies, e o rochedo da castração, que naquilo que a gente entende como, numa elaboração lacaniana da psicanálise, a gente entende como o nome do pai. Instead of us elaborating castration as alienation in language or in culture, I think we should elaborate on another type of castration that means that we left the water to be walking beings. I mean, you have to be precocious the whole time because you can always be something else. You can always be the caterpillar or the bird or the flower in this struggle for life. Because I think in the end it's a struggle for life. It's a war that is constantly happening to the species, but it's a war that keeps the memory of this evolution. It's an unconscious that is constantly reminding you that you're not only human. Lacan makes this beautiful elaboration in this Baltimore conference that the unconscious is Baltimore at dawn. But then Lacan's just afterwards is going to say, but listen, the unconscious is not semiotic. The unconscious is language. That's why we should go with Guattari. It's semiotic unconscious. It's much more semiotic, so it's composed. Why Baltimore at dawn? Because it's the neon signs. It's cars passing. It is maybe the river and the sea. It is the buildings. It is the landscape. It's a multi-planar unconscious. Much more than language. I mean, much more than culture. What I like about this idea that Lamar is going to say a name for it that is called animatism. And animatism is something that happens between the layers. Like, what's this in between there?
You see, the book is made up of 6 texts, and the idea came to split these texts into smaller parts. The manuscript contained 3 intersections. So we asked the question, what can we do with these breaks? In what way can these breaks benefit the text? As a byproduct of this structure, there were multiple ways of interacting with the text. Because you could go page by page, or you could follow the lines of each chapter as if hunting a venison in the forest. Now that's an interesting image, and from here we can think about the psychoanalytical woods where the jaguar lives. And recently we have been thinking about Diana, the goddess of the hunt, who was also the goddess of the undivided woods. But she was primarily the goddess of the moon, who resided over transversality above all, the crossing of barriers, hence the goddess of birth. And in thinking about the woods, we start to think about the idea of the periphery and the center. And in one myth, Diana punishes King Agamemnon for hunting in the undivided woods, because in doing so he crossed the line, as by hunting the animal, the king had forgotten that he already takes from the woods. As the idea of the center, the king and the city was dependent entirely upon the periphery.
What happens in this meeting? What is going on in that forest where the jaguar meets the human?
On one level, unconscious television turns to Japanese anime in order to make a psychoanalytical point that would be otherwise difficult to explain. And in the same way, I feel like we needed to include Open Secret in this series of events in order to explain the connection between core and unconscious television. The Open Secret in a way mediates the connection that is otherwise a bit more subtle and not easy to refer to. And I would perhaps like now to turn to a text that was in the book by Persis Beckering. My hypothesis is therefore that corpor is not meaningless, yet points to a constitutive contradiction in the production of knowledge. In deploying this strategy, corpor would be able to break open existing structures of compulsive self-repetition, finding a new language and new modes of engaging with the world, much like the work of psychoanalysis. The text I have just read helps to hint at the importance of the unconscious and the negative in thinking about Open Secret, corpor and internet cinema. So we start with the idea of the look, and in many ways this idea comes from Sartre, and it has a lot to do with his understanding of être, with being, which he also considers to be a nothingness. So for Sartre, being is être en soi, being in itself, and being is not consciousness. As for Sartre, consciousness is being for itself, être pour soi. And then we could say within this existentialist framework, that you cannot be conscious, you can only be conscious of something. There is always an object involved, or another involved, which means for Sartre being is a nothingness. It is not a thing at all. Other people are looking at me, and therefore I have some kind of existence. At first you are one with everything, the universe or God or whatever word you might use there, and then that oneness is broken into two through the appearance of the other. And an appearance here has to do with eyes and light. So through the appearance of the other in your eye, you see the other and you are terrified, because if there is a you, then there must be a me. The look splits the one into the two, both affirming our existence and in some ways violating. So that's the point at which we miraculously, in some sense, arrive at aesthetics. We get to painting, and we find out what painting really is. It is the place in which the gaze, or the look, is given a place of rest, so to speak. Now what I want to do is to try and situate television, cinema, as the next step in this chain, where we arrive at painting as the means of capturing the gaze. So this idea from Lacan of painting capturing the look positions the painting as the next stage from the familial fireplace perhaps, or the central bonfire. It positions television after it. We can think about the painting as taking the place of the fireplace, a seemingly infinite place for our look to roam around. In a way, cinema and television can be seen as following on from this, and perhaps that's the magic of television, that it can capture our look and disrupt the process, the alienating process of othering. But this situation of confrontations and stress stops with the television. And when we think about the image, even if it's static, we understand that there's motion there, and it's within the kind of anamorphosis of these motions, the large circuit of imagery that comes out of the static image that captures our gaze. It's somehow being incorporated into it, finding some sort of harmony and stillness within these situations in which we gather around a painting or a film.
When you make this picture of family dinner table, what comes to mind is a very neurotic table where everybody has to perform their roles. And then suddenly you go to this idea of watching TV as a peaceful practice for the family. Suddenly all these people are free of being the roles that they have to perform. So the mother doesn't have to be the mother anymore. She can be something else. The son doesn't have to be the son anymore. So there's some kind of emancipation by this relationship with art. I don't know if it's art, but most of all, what I'm trying to elaborate in unconscious television is narrative. There's a confrontation, there's another possibility that you face when you're looking at art, and then you can make another story for your life. It's been 80 years that Lacan wrote the text from the mirror stage. The children is looking at himself or their self in the mirror, but the children also has to do this movement with the head to look behind and have a confirmation of this image. This confirmation is pretty much the other with capital O. Who is going to confirm this image that you look in the mirror? Schizophrenia comes from not having a confirmation, because you don't know if this image is valid enough. And I think, especially when we do art, we don't have the confirmation of those new things that we are producing. When you're doing fiction, you don't have a confirmation, because you don't know how is it going to work with this huge other that Lacan is going to elaborate as language. So this position of being alienated is something that art is constantly making us thinking about. With unconscious television, and I think is what Core says to us, is that even though those are internet images, even though those are television, anime, something that is taken as like lesser culture, they're making much more interesting stuff than what people are saying they're like good art. They're doing something out of there that's much more transgressive. Even if we get the idea of the core, those are two words, but they are the same words. But are they the same words? There's a mirror stage at the core, looking at the core, and who's going to confirm what the core is? In a certain way is what a Dada does. It's a Da with a Da, and what is Da? And Da in German is not any word. I mean, if you get with the signifier, it's there. I mean, Da is to be there. Are you there? Bist du da? So what is there in the end as a core of the core four? Who is going to be there to confirm to us? Is it this book, or is it something that somebody's going to confirm in 20 years or never? That's this nothingness. The nothingness is a friend of chaos. Nothingness that is force of potentiality. Yes.